Hello and welcome to Makers.dev episode number 39, which is one less than 40 episodes. Chris, how many of these are we going to do? We're doing a great job.
Just keep going till it gets old, I guess. Yeah, it's been
Just
fun.
keep going till it or one of us gets too old, or I just get tired talking with you. I love that we did this. I've said this so many times. This was a very good idea.
Yeah, it's always neat to check in and talk about just random stuff.
Yeah, and there are people who are listening to us. That's so cool. These are conversations that we probably would have been having anyway, and nice sort of check-ins. I've said this several times, but I think I would continue doing this even if we didn't publish anything. It's still useful for me to have this record of stuff that we've talked about and see where I was in my journey of how I solved problems, and have a regular check-in of we both are living very unstructured lives, and so this is like a nice little performance review of I get to do a reflection on my week's work. And every once in a while we get a fun little tidbit, like a tweet that we just got this morning by someone I don't think either of us know, Jonas Larson, who said, "It sounds like you have all the pieces to create attaboy.ai, the most intelligent compliments." Like, cool. People are listening to us and want us to make our thing. Let's do it. Let's make the thing, right? What would that look like?
Yeah. So this is for if you haven't been listening. Christian came up with this idea a while ago. Like, he wants to text a service or something, say like, I just lost 2 pounds, and it would text back, that's awesome. Keep up the good work. But it wanted to be more personalized, and so through my work with GPT and this latest AI stuff, I can do that now. It won't. I posted some examples of how it won't always work the right way in that thread. But yeah, I mean, like, we have all the pieces now. You could do the Twilio stuff, and I could do the AI part, and yeah. And I think you already registered the domain, if I'm not mistaken.
I sure did. I don't think .ai is a TLD that can be registered, but RMO seems to be .dev domain, so I got attaboy.dev.
You can register it on Namecheap. Google doesn't let you, though.
Oh, well, let me get that one instead. That's a cooler domain. Attaboy.ai is available $70 a year. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's more expensive than .coms.
Gross. Well, it's way cooler. I loved your example. You gave it the prompt, "I lost 2 pounds," and got some traditional ones of like, "You're doing a great job. Don't stop. Great job." And I loved like the very last one is, "Really? I did too." And what a sassy response. Like, I love that. I think I wouldn't even work to take that out, because I would just be so entertained if I was using this service to get some positive encouragement, that like telling me I did a good job. Yeah. And it responds with like a sassy trying to one up me, like this AI is jealous of me that I lost 2 pounds, and it's trying to say that it did just as good of a job. Yeah, I love it.
The fun part is you can actually tune that also. You can tune it so it's like more predictable. So it'd probably say like "good job" all the time, or like way more random, and so it'd say like even weirder stuff than that. Yeah.
That's very cool. That feels like it might be a user setting of like, maybe would you like weirder things, or would you like
you want a sassy AI
stuff? I'm gonna tune my weirdness up all the way. That's
it.
Let's go. That's fun. And between the two of us, I feel like we could slap this together. Like, I've done a bunch of work in Twilio. I know exactly how those things would be structured, and I can hook up the domain name and hand you a code base that's like, I just need, this function is the function that returns response to a text, and this is where you get the text of what the person said, and I guess we'll add one thing for like the parameter of what their setting is for the amount of weirdness they want, and I'll figure out where to store that and how to get that information, and then you just return the prompt, which I think would be the fun part for you, and I can slap together the boilerplate for that pretty easily. Are you free today? Do you want to get this done?
Knock it out. I have 2 more days of work left, and so how about Wednesday?
Okay, how about Wednesday? I'll have my part done for you by Wednesday,
awesome.
and then you can push, and I'll set it up with Vercel, so it's just a git push, and it'll be deployed. Perfect. All right, this is happening. Thank you for the push, Jonas Larson. We're going to get you your attaboy.ai. 2 more days of your job. Let's talk about that. Is it bittersweet? Are you ready for it to be done? What lessons have you learned? How have you grown? How have you changed with this experience?
Yeah, it's been really neat. I didn't quite know what to expect, but it's the first time I've ever worked for any kind of game or entertainment adjacent company, except for the one time that I worked on a heavy metal radio app for iPhone.
I'm sorry, what?
I did do that. I was contracted once to help build a streaming app for a heavy metal radio station, so that was kind of cool.
Cool. All right.
But other than that, this is the only entertainment like adjacent company I worked at. So it was really neat. Even apart from the AI stuff that I learned, like just learning all about games and all about how game companies think and operate and work and stuff. It was really neat. Also, like every person there is like really good at what they do and has really interesting stories and stuff. And so if you are looking for a great place to work and you want to check out Hidden Door, I think that they have a great team and they know what they're doing. And so, it's just been really, really good.
My understanding of what you were doing is that it was a very encapsulated project that you were kind of handed like, this is a standalone thing. How much interaction did you find that you had with other people on the team?
It's still a small company, and so I was involved. Like the entire company still does every stand up because it's like I guess it's 8 people now, and then I could like I got attached to meetings where I wasn't directly involved, just one, so I had exposure to it, and also because they were also using my web experience. That was part of the deal. Like I helped them like with any questions related to web stuff because they have web experience too, but they had me, so they might as well ask me questions also. So yeah, I got exposure to everybody basically. It was neat.
Cool. That's something I miss doing work in this way, is just like I feel like I get a lot of it just from this podcast and chatting with you, but it'd be kind of cool that, if I was in a team of people who are all working in the same direction, who I can talk about the work that I did and like it's meaningful to other people too. The idea that you could be in this team and people want to hear an update from you and you say, oh yes, I pushed forward this thing with AI, and now everyone on the team is thinking, oh good, he's pushing forward this thing that I was working on, and like how can I integrate that with what I was doing? That sort of community, something I feel like I'm missing, that I'd love to figure out a way to reconstruct. Maybe with this attaboy.ai, that'll be like, all right, Chris and I are working on a non-podcast thing and pushing it forward together. How would you say that was a meaningful part of your work there, or am I overstating the value of that? And it's just the grass is greener, and actually it was much more monotonous and like another meeting. I got to report what I'm doing.
So there's absolutely a grass is greener thing on both sides, but it was So I miss that also. Every time I do a consulting project like on a team, I get some of that, but what I'm pretty sure I don't want is to be a full-time employee forever for a company again. But I do like this kind of, jumping in, doing a contract for 2 months, being part of a team, like you said, because that's something that you miss when you're solo. And so it is nice to be a part of that. But it's also nice to not be a part of that. And so I don't know, there's like a switch, kind of, you got to switch back and forth, I think. Yeah. But
how are you feeling about it in this moment? Do you feel like you're done? Could you go for another 2 months?
I could probably go further. Yeah. They are, my project wrap. It's not done because it's going to keep going forever, but I think I got them to a good spot with what I was doing. And then I'm also, for the next 2 days, I'm basically building a new demo with everything that I learned. And so that's kind of neat because I'll be able to see like a full project. I'm basically going to speed run through making a game in the next 2 days so that I can compile everything that I learned into one like encapsulated thing.
How fun.
Yeah. So that'll be neat also. But yeah, I'm ready to, start my master's also. So.
That's right. Oh, I want to ask you about that. But first, can you talk about what that demo is going to do? Can you talk about what your magnum opus from your time at Hidden Door?
Probably. I haven't asked if I could share it or not. Imagine everything I've talked about I'm doing, like the company is doing, and imagine I building that in 2 days. That's like with some shortcuts. The other thing, so I could talk about this a little. The shortcuts that I'm taking are basically all of the bits that make it coherent or safe for work, or like there are a lot of things they're doing to make plot very interesting and characters very interesting that I'm just skipping entirely, and I'm leaving that all in the hands of the AI. So I tested that this morning, and what happens is basically GPT is like an encapsulation of the internet. And so what happens is it gets very adult very quickly. Like within 3 sentences, clothes come off of all the characters, and like that happens like all the time. So anything I'm doing is coming with a big old content warning, but all of the technical bits should be in there. Yeah,
that's hilarious to me. You're not leaving them with this thing. It's like a erotic story generator. They have to be the filter for that now of like making it more PG. What a ridiculous concept. Like, that's very funny. Cool and amazing that you can slap something like this together now that you've laid the groundwork. I'm picturing like a demo that you build that then that's the code that they're going to copy when they're building out more full systems that's going to go into the final version.
Potentially. So I already have code that's in the full system. This is more like basically everything that I've learned about GPT content generation is I have in a big Notion document, so I'm leaving that with them. But this is like the applied version of that, and so they'll probably just copy it from the Notion document. This is just more like a proof of concept of what those like different prompt types can be used for.
Got it. Makes sense. They can have fun with their adult D&D.
Yeah. I am trying. I'm trying to put some light filtering on it. So I'm trying to have, so GPT is a zero-shot learner. And so what you could do is you can say things like, does this passage have any explicit content? And then list the passage and it'll say yes or no, right? It does not always get it right though. And so I think I am going to put some kind of content thing on there just because it goes X-rated so fast. But and so I'm going to try to put something in there, but you can still go off the rails really easily.
What is a zero-shot learner?
Okay, so this is like zero-shot learning means, so normally in machine learning, you train on a bunch of examples. So like you have a lot of examples of, so if you were doing explicit content, then you'd have a lot of explicit content and non-explicit content. Pass that through a filter and say, this is a 1, this is a 0. And then later you can pass through, any content and it'll give you 1 or 0 back. For zero-shot learner, like GPT, what you do is you train it in a self-supervised way, which means you don't have these labels. You train it just on like the entire internet, which is what they did. And then later you can go back and say, you can give it what's called a prompt, which is basically, and GPT understands natural language. So you can say, does this have explicit content, passage, and then, yes or no. And so you don't have to do all this training because it's done all this self-supervised training. The downside, so the upside is you don't have to train it on a bunch of stuff. The downside is it doesn't work as well as the fully trained version. So if you're really building a content filter, what you want is a fully trained, with millions of examples kind of filter. But the quick and dirty way is to use GPT to do it.
What's the alternate strategy called if it's not zero shot?
So supervised learning, or
Supervised
just machine learning in general, is learning from lots of data.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand. So supervised learning would be, I know the ground truth, and I have a table of a bunch of different phrases, and I know definitively if it's safe or not.
Yep.
That's supervised learning. Zero shot is, I just tell GPT-3, go out there and learn, you bright young artificial mind.
Yep.
And then in the moment when I'm wanting to build a classifier, in the moment when I'm wanting to say, is this explicit or not, I show it a few examples of what I mean, and I assume that it'll be able to deduce from that the rule. But that's not going to be as clean of data as if I trained it from the ground truth. Is that right?
Exactly, yep. And technically that's few shot learning because you're giving it a few examples. And then zero shot would be no examples, just ask it. Few shot works better with GPT, but you can also do zero shot. You can just say, does this contain explicit material, and then list the thing, and it'll try to guess. But it's just a guess, really. So, how
cool that that's a thing that we have now. You can just... Oh man, technology! I'm not going to geek out about this right now. But your master's program starts in 2 days. That's so exciting. I think I asked you about this last week. Of like, ooh, do you have the fun back to school fever?
Right.
How are you framing that? What are you thinking about? Are you ready? Have you had those nightmares yet? Of like, you signed up for the class that you didn't know you had, and then the finals the next day.
So I've had those dreams like before for like many years, like I still have dreams about school, like, oh no, it's the first day of school and I don't know where my classes are or something. So no more or less because I've signed up for this. But it technically started last week, and so I'm into it now. It feels kind of weird. There was no like like live, hello everyone started kind of thing, like there might be at a regular school. It's just like the classes are up online now and I can watch them. It's also they're doing the best they can with what they have, but there's edX, Canvas, Piazza, and the class website for both of my classes. So 4 places to go for both classes. So every day I have to check like 8 different websites for updates. It is not ideal. But other than that, so far so good.
Cool. How is the community? Do you find yourself interacting with other classmates, or are you all siloed?
So I think it depends on the class. So there's an unofficial Slack group for like all of the online UT Austin people. It's run by students, but the school knows about it and they actually put it in their newsletter thing. So a lot of people are on there. And then there's in every class there's like a discussion forum, and so far that's been like people asking, I almost said kids, college students, graduate students, asking about like homework, the homework or the lectures. And so there's no like community there yet. And then in the classes I'm in, the deep learning one I think might have a group final project, but other than that it's individual projects. So I don't anticipate much collaboration like with other people, which is kind of a bummer, but it's also easier because everyone is asynchronous and there's a lot of people from other countries. And so that would be really hard to like get time zones. So there's definitely less collaboration than like an in-person school would have. But the Slack group is something. And you also, I think, as people ask questions on this discussion forum, I think you'll get to know people by their avatars and stuff. So there is some community, but definitely not as much as in person.
Okay, that makes sense. I was struck when I took Ali Abdal's part-time YouTuber Academy of it felt like the first class I'd taken that was designed to be digital first, and they had like the circle group, and people were very active on that, and in every lecture it was designed with these exercises midway through where you go into breakout groups and talk about the thing that was just discussed, and then you come back and share interesting tidbits. And it, more so than any other virtual class I've taken, that felt like it was recreating a lot of the benefit that I get socially from in-person classes, and was taking advantage of the medium of like, if I'm in an in-person class, when I was in in-person classes, I don't think I ever meaningfully communicated to people in any sort of asynchronous way, unless we were like actively working on an assignment and had to meet up and work on it in person or something. There's a lot of potential there. I'm curious, as you go through this, examples of things that you think went well in community and benefits that you got from it, or ideas that you have for how to do that differently. I think there's a lot to be gained there. Digitally, that medium makes a lot more sense to me. You can be asynchronous and you can communicate with people that you're not as connected to. Connections can be formed much easier. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily the case that an in-person class will always be better and have better connections. So I'm excited to hear updates as you progress through the course.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it feels as I progress too. I really like the asynchronous nature so far, because so this is designed, you can do it full time if you want, or you can just do it like as a working professional. You could take like one class at a time, and you don't have to be online at a certain time. So I do really like that aspect of it. But,
cool. Which classes are you enrolled in right now? What are you studying?
I'm in deep learning, so that's like a sort of intro to deep learning thing. Most of the syllabus I kind of already know, but that's okay. There is some theory and there's some stuff I haven't learned just yet, but that is I'll call it my easy class because I already know most of it. The other class is parallel systems, and that is the hard class. That is going to take a lot of work. I have to learn, or I work in C++, Go, Rust, and then there's one other one. So there's like 4 different programming languages covering a wide variety of like parallel topics, including GPU programming, so like CUDA programming. I'm excited for that one. But then there's also like, so it starts with C++ threads, which is, difficult.
Yeah.
Right? And, but then there's like concurrency with Go, and then there's shared memory with Rust. And then it covers like Hadoop and like MapReduce stuff, some as well. So that I knew was a hard class going in, and it looks like it's going to be a hard class, but it's also like, everyone's like, it's hard, but it's worth it. So, yeah.
Useful stuff. That's some of the hardest problems in computer science. GPU programming still is just black magic to me.
Yep.
That's I prefer abstractions on top of that of like TensorFlow. Yes, great. I just call this method to go in and out of the GPU, and I don't care what happens in there. Great. That's what I want. Neat. Those 2 classes, nothing else? Is it like a semester long, or how long is that term?
Yep, till December, so it's like 5 months, I think. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, you can take, so 3 would be a full time, and then 4 would be a heavy full time. So I'm just taking 2, which is hopefully about half time, maybe a little more than half time, because parallel systems I think is going to be hard.
Cool. And then it's a year program, 2 years?
The whole program, you have to take 10 classes. So yeah, it depends on how many you take. So if you take 3 classes a semester, you can do it 2 years. Is that right? Something like that. And or less than 2 years. I will probably do it in 2.5. It depends on what summer class. So during the summer you can take classes also, but they don't offer all of the classes. So it like depends on where you are, if you can get any classes in the summer that you need.
Cool. Yeah. You're going to be a student for a meaningful amount of time. That's like
a
lot of the time that you were in college. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It kind of gives me a new chapter in my life for the next 2.5 years, which is fine. I mean, I could also withdraw at any time if it's, if there, like there's no reason I need to be in it. And so it's, if I ever get, super sick of it or something, I can get out. But so far I'm excited. Yeah.
I'm excited for you. It's going to be a fun project. One more thing I'd love to ask you about. You have been putting all these wacko experiments on Twitter of you doing this weird stuff with AI. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So I sort of talked about this before. So I'm doing these generating images with AI through my work at Hidden Door. I'm generating a lot of texts with GPT, and I can always get it to fail in some hilarious ways. And so like I don't want to flood my Twitter with all these examples, but I'm thinking about like starting a newsletter or something to like share the hilarious failures of AI. So I don't know what. I also don't need a new project, right? So I guess what's your
Chris? We are well past that.
What is your hot take on an AI failure, either newsletter or Twitter bot or something? I don't know. What would you like to see?
I'm reminded of I think it was a TikTok or a YouTube video or something where they said, we've fed this AI 1,000 hours of Olive Garden commercials and it came up with this, and it's like a viral sensation with 10 million views or something. And there have been some copycats of that video that I don't think have done as well. And there's also some question of like how much human involvement was there done in this. I think in one of them they had like actual humans acting it out. That's the zeitgeist I'm getting right now is that like people are a little scared of AI, and they're also amused that it gets things wrong right now. That's just the cultural temperament that I'm feeling. We're not quite at the stage yet where it's like, it's a reliable thing that we know works all the time. I'm imagining, I think you could certainly pull up, cartoons from when the car was first invented, and it was like poking at cars, and it was like, my car broke down, and could I borrow your horse? And it was some sort of a funny joke off of that. That's where we are with AI. I think there's a huge... It's sort of a different business than we ever usually think about, because I'm thinking like it would be a viral content channel. It would be like a TikTok where you were like, look at this funny thing I got AI to do today, and I asked AI, I told it that I lost weight and asked it to comment me, and it said, better lose some more, fat ass. Like that would be funny. And if you had one of those that you were posting every day, or I think that makes sense. And even just the way that you've been doing it on Twitter, that's about where I think that content should go. Might not fit in the brand of your account on Twitter,
right? That's why I thought about starting a new one, throwaway bot. But I already have several Twitter accounts. So.
Hey, make a new one. I can get you a good deal on one for 20% discount. And I would consider doing a different medium. I would this content may make more sense on TikTok or I don't know, YouTube or Instagram or something.
Yeah, that's true. So we can talk about that a little. So Instagram, I get the feeling like they've sort of removed some of the viral sharing on Instagram. I don't know if that's true or not, but I get the feeling that it's easier to, and I don't use Instagram, so I don't know, but it used to be really good and now it's not quite as good. TikTok, I have a huge hesitancy towards because it's like an app only, right? And you have to sign up like and it's this Chinese company that may or may not get banned at some or not point in the future. I don't know. YouTube would be okay, I guess. That might be funny. I don't know. What do you think about those different mediums?
If you do, I agree with you on Instagram. Thinking about that, that's the feeling of that is much more like, look at me and my fancy rich life, and much less, look at this funny thing. So if you don't like TikTok, I would push you a little bit on trying TikTok out, because I think that's the up and coming platform. That's the one that, like, if you're going to get disproportionate rewards from, you're probably going to get it from that. That's your highest chance of becoming a viral sensation. And then if you do YouTube, I would optimize for YouTube Shorts, which are YouTube's hot take on TikTok. It would fit that medium much better. And I would figure out some formula of, like, have a prompt and you have text come up that's like, I asked an AI to do this thing, and here's what it did. And look at the stupid AI, not knowing what to do. And just have some sort of a formulaic thing that you can churn out content that's low effort for you, but that you can do very consistently, and see what happens. And, like, who knows? Maybe you get 1 million followers, and then you have this machine of, like, a consumer audience that thinks your jokes are funny.
To what end? Yeah,
maybe you sell T-shirts or something out of that. I don't know how you make money off of that.
I don't either. But I don't know. I have so many examples already, and I'm not even trying to generate them, that I just think it'd be funny to do that. I don't know.
If nothing else, save them in a way that you can pull back on them later, and then when it becomes clearer what to do with this content, I don't know, maybe you read a book, you have this wellspring of, like, oh great, I have 100 examples that I can pull from, and there's the book, or there's my first 100 days of content.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, I'll think about that one.
Cool.
How about you? What did you get up to this week?
The main thing I want to talk with you about is just, like, a time log of all of the different projects I worked on. I said I wanted to work on File Inbox, and I didn't work on it at all for the jeez, I don't know, 100th week in a row. I don't even know. Christian, what are you doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But I did get a lot of work done, and the most exciting thing that happened this last week is I got my first paying customer for Clips.marketing. And that name may be changing. That's another thing I want to talk about.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My first customer's name is Brendan Hufford. I have his testimonial on my homepage now. And when I told him the amount of money, he was like, how much is this? And I told him, I don't know, $100 a month. He responded, you're not charging enough. You're basically selling me money. I can take this clip, put it on LinkedIn, and 2 or 3 people are going to book sales off of that. And I imagine a sale for him is worth so much more than $100 a month.
That is an amazing testimonial, and also
isn't it? Yeah,
feedback.
And he's he's a very good customer. This is exactly the sort of person I'm wanting to build this for, and so that felt really good. And I don't actually have that money in my bank account yet, because I told him, just give me your credit card number, and then I'll build the back end, the integration, and then I'll charge you and let you know, and then you'll be able to cancel it online.
That is exactly the right way to take the first payment, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And I haven't built that yet. I don't know why. I was working on other stuff. So on Clips.marketing this last week, including the time that I spent on this call making my first sale, I worked 91 minutes. Another big project that hold on, let me make a note, because there's one more thing I want to do. Okay. The other project I wanted to work on that I think at the end of the last episode I was like, oh, I have this idea for Gmail, for a better interface for Gmail, and I think I could finish this today. I worked on that over the next 4 days, spending a total of 264 minutes. And here's the frustrating part. I got all the way to the end. I got to the point where, like, I figured out the OAuth integration. OAuth, awful, terrible. Redo the whole system. I don't know what it's supposed to look like.
Every time. Yeah.
Oh, every time. Did the whole system, got to the point where, like, I can be slurping in all my Gmail messages, got that in a nice interface in Gmail. I took this Tailwind template of an email inbox. Tailwind UI also, if no one knows what this is and you're any kind of a developer, oh my God, it's the cheapest, nicest web designer that I have ever imagined. Yes. I was flipping through examples, and I was like, I kind of need these sort of components to do a inbox style thing. Found they had a pre-made template with the menu bar and the sidebar and like the inbox layout and the detail list of all the messages. I just copied the whole thing. They had it pre-formatted in React. The only thing I had to do is think of, for my use case, where does it make sense to delineate, like what is a component and how do I want to structure this. So got all the way there.
For anyone listening, by the way, Tailwind CSS is the free CSS thing. Tailwind UI is the component library made by Steve and Adam, right? Yes. And I think it's like $250 total ever, something like that.
Something like that. A meaningless amount of money.
You will make it back in the first component that you copy.
Yes. So it's as if you've hired Steve Schroger.
Yeah.
Schroger. It's as if you've hired him to be your own personal designer.
Yep.
Something I love that they did is they're charging money for those templates, whereas Bootstrap had them all for free. So Bootstrap websites, you just started to see all over, and anyone making a site, they started with Bootstrap. And so for me at least, when I saw a site that was designed obviously in Bootstrap, I got this feeling of like, this person just slapped this together. And yes, this design looks nice, but that's not necessarily an indication of how good the product is. Whereas by charging a small amount of money for these Tailwind templates, that's still fresh and new and exciting. And like when I see a Tailwind template out in the wild, I'm like, oh, this person paid money for this thing that was a very good purchase. Like there's a higher standard of quality. So I went on their site and had the pre-made template and also filled out all the back end stuff. Like got it to the point where I was able to implement like the novel thing that I wanted to do of organizing things by sender. And then I completely lost interest because I was like, this doesn't actually speed me up that much. And I don't know if this is a project that I'm just setting down temporarily to pick up later, but you know, I spent 264 minutes like designing this thing after, you know, more minutes than that in previous weeks. Got to the point where I could actually do something and then realized it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And then just did my inbox in the normal way. And it took like, you know, it took, I think 12 minutes to catch up on something like a month of emails with the old way that I'm doing it. And so it just doesn't seem worth it. Like that project is dead now. And I learned some things about integrating the Gmail API, and I have this project now that like I could, if I get another novel idea about how to do email, if I wanted to do like a customer support email inbox or something. But I would like to honor the life of that product and mourn its death a little bit. But I think the thing I'm hung up about is like, I would have liked to have foreseen that would have happened before investing the work in it. But at the same time, it wasn't a waste of time. I learned a lot in the project. Like in a lot of ways, this is sort of like the worst case thing that could possibly happen when working on a new project. And it was fine because I still learned stuff and I still improved stuff and I better mapped out my understanding and got the reps in of building stuff. And and now it's just going to live in a folder in my computer, and it's there now if I ever wanted to pick it up later. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have a project like this that you invest a bunch of time in and then realize, oh, I don't actually want this thing?
So many. You got to the point where what I was going to say, which is this is not. You started talking like it was some kind of failure. This is not a failure at all. This is, I would say, a success. You had an idea for something. It was probably taking up a lot of your like mental cycles. Right. And then in 200 something minutes, you learned a new skill, which is OAuth in Gmail, which you may hate now, but that's okay.
And I'll have to relearn it again in the future. But I know it a little better now.
You got more familiar with the Gmail, API. You got more familiar with the Tailwind API. You got, flexed your muscles for building a new thing. And then you found out that the thing you thought you wanted, you didn't want, which means you can stop thinking about it, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like you spent a few hours and now you can unload that from your brain and load in something else.
Yeah. I like that framing of it. That is very freeing.
So that's great.
That is great. Thank you. I feel better. Cool. Other projects I worked on, pushed forward my time tracker a little bit, which allowed me to have these numbers. That's a project that I've set down that I feel like I'm gearing up to pick back up. That's something that's been very important to me, that has become very central to my workflow and has given me this higher level perspective of like, oh, I spent time in this place that I didn't want to be spending it, and not enough time in this other place. How could I move that dial? So not this week, but in the coming weeks, that is probably going to be like the main focus of my work. And then I picked back up Camhead. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had thought that I wasn't able to build it in React Native, or not React Native, not Express. Oh my gosh,
Electron.
Yes. I thought I wasn't able to do that because I needed circular masking on the window, and I didn't think that was a thing that Electron supported. And I stumbled on this article that hinted at that sort of thing was possible. And then I pulled up the documentation, and I had a much better idea of exactly what I was looking for, and was able to find you can have transparent windows in Electron. I didn't know you could do that, and then it's cross-platform, and so that got me really excited about oh man, I've been dreading implementing any sort of features in the Swift version of Camhead, because Swift is confusing and bad, and the paradigms are different, and so I just felt this inspiration to completely recode Camhead in JavaScript on Electron, and in 95 minutes I'm 80% of the way there. That's awesome. A lot of the features that we had talked about of being able to move it and having a preference of making the camera icon bigger or smaller, that's all just going to be trivially easy. So that might be a thing that actually gets pushed out. I have the domain name came into that app, and I have the app registered on the App Store and got stuck in some process of actually publishing it. But there's alternative ways to publish things when it's on Electron that make that a little bit easier, like auto updates are a thing built in. So that was going to be one of the advantages of getting something on the App Store, but I might be able to just get that for free if I just have a DMG that you download. Right. And it's possible that I just get multi-platform for free. So that this could become something that just works out of the box on Windows and Linux, which would be very exciting. Is that still a thing you use? I know I sent you my Swift code, and I saw a few videos that you were recording with that. Or what changes would you want to make in that app?
I think there were, let me remember. So I don't use it because there were 3 things I wanted that it didn't do. I don't remember exactly what. We could go back and listen to the thing. I wanted it to be on the other side of the screen, flip 180 degrees, and I wanted to be able to change the size of the bubble. I think those were the 3 things.
Cool.
If it did those things,
last episode too.
I would use it.
You've published videos since then with your face in a circle in the corner. How are you doing that?
I just got better at doing it with ScreenFlow.
Okay.
It's an extra, 4 or 5 steps to you record 2 separately. I mean, record it at the same time, but in separate things, and then you just overlay the thing, make it a circle, move to the corner, flip it. So it's a little annoying to do. So I would pay a little bit of money to make that little annoyance go away.
I would love to be the person to offer you that opportunity.
The other thing you can look at, so do you know Dave Sedia? I think you do.
Yes.
Minecraft. Yeah. So he wrote something called Recut,
which
is a sort of similar thing. It's not for faces, but it's for video editing, and it's a small part of video editing. So it's a similar app in that way. And he chose to release it not on the App Store. And so I think it'd be interesting. You go back and look at his tweets, or even talk to him about, why he did that and what he would do differently and stuff. Because I think that's a very similar space.
That's a very good connection. I was chatting with him around the time that he was releasing that, and one of the reasons, if I remember correctly, that he was saying that he did that is that sandboxing for apps on the App Store is just a pain. If you have to do any sort of file I/O, that if it's a native app, it asks you explicitly for access to every single folder that you want access to.
Oh boy!
So if it's a pain. Versus if you're just in a DMG that you download. I think there's one extra step of you have to say
you have to say, okay, open this from the internet or whatever.
Yeah. But then you have full disk access. So that's not something that would matter for Camhead because it's just showing the camera.
Yeah, it would just ask. I assume it would ask once for camera access, right?
Yeah, which is the same on if it was a native app or not. But it would just be more convenient. Dealing with the App Store is a pain, and I think the main value they would provide is that they would do billing for me, but I just use Stripe.
Billing, VAT, and distribution. So I wouldn't sleep on how wide the distribution for the Mac App Store is, and if they happen to feature you, which is kind of a lottery ticket, but if they do, then you get just thousands of downloads.
That's interesting. Yeah. You said I wouldn't sleep on the distribution, and I don't know what that phrase means. Is that good or bad?
Oh, I wouldn't sleep on is ignore or
Yes, okay.
I would pay attention to the distribution that Apple can give you. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry, I don't know if that's a regional thing or something. Yeah.
I wouldn't sleep on it. I've heard sleep on it, meaning like I'm going to think about it.
No. It means like I wouldn't not pay attention to it.
Okay. I learned a new phrase today. Cool. The featuring me is interesting. That would feel sort of like a lottery ticket thing. Otherwise, distribution. Are you reading anything into like the difficulty of distributing a DMG? That seems like I would just like throw.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, I guess I don't mean distribution. What do I mean? It gets in front of a lot of eyeballs.
Okay. Like publishing is there. I'm listing myself in their store.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. So a strategy that I've known would be a positive ROI for me is getting File Inbox as like a Shopify app and getting it in all those regional stores, because when people are looking for that type of app, they're looking in those stores, and I want to put myself in that index. Okay, so yes, from a publishing standpoint and like a marketing standpoint, people might be searching for. I could game the Apple Store search engine in the same way that I might game Google and figure out what people are searching for, of like small circular camera bubble screen recording, and just have that in my description and it might show up.
Yeah,
okay.
It'll happen in two ways. One is like kind of SEO-ish, which is what you're talking about. So someone searches for like camera app, right? And then you might pop up in there. The other one is, and so I saw this when a long time ago, I created a few iOS apps. If you get any kind of like velocity in any of the countries, then you start getting on those countries like top 100 lists for different categories. And people just look at those top 100 lists and like just click through all of them and like randomly buy stuff on the lists. And so like if you get on top 100 lists, and it's not hard at all to get on top 100 lists for different countries, for different categories, you'll see a spike in your downloads just because you got on one of those lists.
Okay. Well, those are all very good reasons to be on the App Store, and I don't have a strong reason not to, other than it was just a little difficult to navigate the App Store. So
it will be extremely annoying the first time you do it, and then after that, it will only be minorly annoying.
Yeah.
Every update.
And I think the last time I picked this project up, I felt like I was very close.
Yeah.
And this can't possibly be that hard.
It's not. It took me. Give yourself 2 days, 2 solid days, which is a lot of time, but it will be annoying for 2 days, and then it'll be done. Yeah.
Okay, that's not so bad, and then I can push it forward. Meta statistics on all the work I got done last week. I got 486 minutes done of what I would consider work, of like I'm pushing forward a project that is a thing that might make money. I don't know how to define work. I'm working on useful things. That was like Pomodoro work. I sat down on my computer and I set an objective, and then I worked towards that objective. In the same week, I only YouTubed for 136 minutes, which I'm pretty proud of. That's good. Much lower than the total work number. Close to a fourth, I think. I'm just looking at the first number. About a fourth. That ratio feels about right. I'd like to push that down a little bit more, but not too much.
Are you also time tracking like your nighttime stuff? So is this like all personal tracking as well?
Yeah, this is my entire life. I go from the minute I wake up to when I go to bed. I
watch way more than that.
Yeah. I thought I watched way more than that, and there have been moments where I've been able to track that I watched way more than that. And also, this is an issue I have with time tracking. I had used time trackers before that were totally automated, that just showed like this is how many minutes you spent on this website or this app. But that's not what I want to track, because sometimes I'm watching YouTube videos to answer a technical question that pushes me forward in the work that I'm doing. And there's no way for my computer to know that. That's just like a choice that I've made of how I'm defining what the time is. So when I say YouTube time, I mean like this very specific thing that happens where I feel stuck or frustrated, and I just get that itch of like, oh, you know how I could get some quick dopamine? It's by hitting Command T and typing YOU enter, and then I'm going to see something entertaining pop up on my screen. And that's fine. It's not preferable, but like I'm working on being accepting of myself, that's a thing that I need to do sometimes. The only extra rule that I've added for myself is like, I just want to track how much time I'm spending on this thing. So I have a button on my desk. I'm going to show this to the camera if you're watching this on YouTube. This speech bubble icon is I'm either messaging or YouTubing. Very and cool. This play pause button is I'm either working or taking a break from work, which can be like
what is that device technically?
This is a I want you to guess what this is.
It looks like an Amazon, like one of those push buttons, but it doesn't have the sides to it. I mean, and that's a desk mount. I recognize that, but
Yes. Okay. This is a desk mount. You were asking about the buttons. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry.
buttons.
I thought you were.
oh yeah, no, that's a
what the
headphone.
thing
That's a
was.
headphone mount, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You got it right.
Yeah.
The buttons are flick buttons, which are functionally identical to the Amazon buttons. But they're programmable. You can make them play a sound or activate an app or something. So that connects to my phone over Bluetooth, and then I have it just send a post request to the Midnight backend. And I have these all over. I've got one by my bed that tracks when I'm going to sleep and when I have woken up but have not yet gotten out of bed. That's a very interesting number to track, because some days I wake up and I'm in bed for like an hour. It's like, what am I doing? And then other days
you don't have kids. That's what you're doing.
That would fix that problem. That's how I get better time management. And I've got one in the bathroom. I track bathroom breaks. I know exactly how much time I spent pooping last week. I will not share that number on the podcast, but I'm proud of it. It's a good number. Total YouTube time was 136 minutes. Total work time was 486 minutes. And here's the part I'm not fully proud of. I have just been running myself in circles about buying a Tesla. I have decided I'm going to do it. It's something I've wanted for the last 10 years. And I told myself when I hit this meaningful financial goal where I felt financially independent, the money that I got on top of that goal would go towards a Tesla. And at the time, the only model reasonably available was an $80,000 Model S. And my gosh, if you looked at my YouTube search history right now, it's just all about Tesla. It's just all like Model 3 versus Model Y, Model Y performance race versus Model 3 performance, like Model Y storage. Like, oh, the number of things I know about these freaking cars now. I just can't stop myself from just optimizing as much as I possibly can of like, I want the best car for me that, and like, if you get the long range Model 3, it costs this much, and the performance Model 3 costs this much. But then there's this secret aftermarket upgrade you can get that costs $2,000 that is a speed boost for the long range. But there's a third party boost that's like this little camera you put, or a little device you plug in that like emulates that and also gets you these other things. So that would make it so that I should get the Model 3, but then the Model Y has more charging, and like, oh my God, it's every day I feel like I convince myself that like getting a different car is the best choice. I have only tracked some of that time. It was only like probably midway through the week that I had the thought I should be tracking this time. I spent 335 minutes just on running myself in circles about exactly which Tesla would be the best. And there's this whole extra game now of like, if I spend more money on one, I could potentially get it sooner, but then I'm going to be traveling for the next month. And so like, I wouldn't be able to take delivery, but if I get this one, then delivery might be at the right time. Oh, it's just an endless, at this point, like, I just need to get one so that I can stop thinking about it. At the same way that, like, you know, I had to do the work of doing the Gmail app to just, like, free those brain cycles. So that was my week. I got a lot of work done, which I feel very proud of, and I had minimal YouTube time, which I feel proud of. But I spent a whole bunch of time on a car. It's a car. It takes me places, and it goes really fast, and it makes me feel alive, and they're really cool. But it's not like I'm, 6 months after I have this car, it's going to be my car.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun still, but like I it doesn't feel like I could possibly justify to an outside observer like spending this much time on the idea of buying a car.
So you and I are hilariously similar in so many ways. I do exactly the same thing for any purchase greater than, I don't know, $10. Like anything, especially, so what I'm thinking of specifically is all my camera equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of camera equipment, and I spend hours and hours looking at all the different things. I have come to realize, so first of all, it drives my wife's absolutely insane. She is not like this at all. So some people don't do this, right? But I've come to realize that entire research process is sort of like a meta part of the process for me. It is entertainment in and to itself for me to research all this stuff. And by the time I'm done, it drives my wife nuts also because I'll buy the thing and then I'll keep researching, and she's like, just stop. You're just making yourself angry at what you bought. But it's all part of the fun for me, and so that's what I do. I just love learning like the really intricate details of stuff I'm about to buy for whatever reason. I want to make sure, like you, I'm getting, either a good deal or exactly the thing that I want. And I want to make sure I'm spending the money, wisely. But I basically realized that all this time is just another form of entertainment for me. So I'd let myself do it.
I like that framing. I've heard before that some people really enjoy trip planning and like thinking of all the things they can do, and that's part of the vacation for them is, they can spend the 6 months leading up to it just fantasizing about how great it's going to be when they're there. And it wasn't until this moment that I realized I don't get that from trip planning. For me, trip planning is like, I sort of just need to be open to new experiences, and a lot of it's going to be painful and things are going to go wrong, and I have sort of learned not to set expectations because things in travel are so multifaceted, and like, with COVID stuff, the EU just blocked or partially blocked or something, or like recommended to block people from the US. So the trip that has been planned for like the last 6 months, planning to go into Croatia with my girlfriend, might not even happen. And like thinking about that, I honestly don't care. Like, it would be really cool if we went, and it would also be hard. I would need to make like accommodations for doing work, and like, then I'm going to be tired, and it's a overnight flight. And also Croatia's amazing. It would be a ton of fun to do that, and we have several fun things planned. But I'm not like invested in it. The process of doing the research of that trip isn't really something that I enjoy. But oh boy, you know what I do enjoy? It's just looking at all the statistics of the Tesla and thinking about, if it went 0.4 seconds faster, what would that feel like? Let me look at some videos of what that looked like. let me go and rent one of these and see what that's like. And that's just, that's part of the experience for me. And something, while you were talking, I had the idea, like, a state of existence that I really enjoy is being an expert on the thing that I have, and being able to just solidly justify, like, this was the best thing for me, and yes, I spent this much money on it, but here's exactly why it's worth it, and I know everything about all of the things in this category, so if you tell me what your needs are, I could recommend to you exactly what the best thing is, because it might not be the one that I have. That's something I love. And then, I can film a YouTube video about that, or I can make a blog post about it and say, like, are you endlessly deciding which Tesla is the best Tesla to get? Here is my decision matrix for every type of person and every type of thing that you value, and here's a little web app to like calculate exactly what makes the most sense. That's how my brain works. And thank you for the framing of like, that's part of the process for me. Like, looking back, I've really enjoyed those 335 minutes. That's where I learned a whole bunch of stuff about Teslas and continue to. So I think, I don't know, maybe looking back on the last week, I don't know that that's where I would take time from if I wanted to be optimizing more time for work. I think I would instead be optimizing like transition time. There's sort of time between purposefully doing stuff that doesn't feel as directed. I think that's still the biggest place to be gaining time from that can be reclaimed for spending more purposeful time.
Yeah, I would call all of this time, all the time you research Teslas, all the time I research camera equipment that I'm never going to buy, I would call that just entertainment time. So that's, that's just like watching a movie or playing a video game for me anyway. It's not just about the buying of the thing. It's entertainment. So I wouldn't sacrifice too much of your entertainment time for work, otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. So yeah.
Another very good piece of framing. Yeah, I didn't watch any movies or play any video games last week because I was entertained by shopping for Teslas.
That's right.
Good.
I'll often do both at once. I'll have Netflix on and then I'll be researching something.
Maximize entertainment.
That's
I
right.
Like it.
I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but I do that all the time. Yeah.
I feel like I want to be fully immersed in whatever the thing is I'm doing. I have that part of autism of just like needing to be incredibly focused on the one thing. I've never been able to watch a movie while doing something else. I've found the first way that you and I are different. It's Good. Confirmation that we are not the same person. One more thing I'd love to talk about. There was a Twitter thread that popped up this morning of someone selling a business that was is a backup business. My understanding is it's similar to Tarsnap. It does like multi-site backups. I had prototyped a business like this back when Patio 11 wrote an article talking about how Tarsnap should be charging way more. Tarsnap is this backup service that's basically charging at cost, which it's cloud service. It's nothing. It's like $5 a month or something for terabytes of storage. And Patio 11's take on this was like, you're selling to businesses, you need to be charging at least $100 a month. And yes, you're now making an insane profit margin of like whatever, 97%. And that's fine. That's the idea of software. And I think the maintainer of Tarsnap was just like philosophically opposed to that.
Yeah.
And had another job that he enjoyed, and so didn't want to do that. So that inspired me to like make a thing in this space. And from the timing of this company, it looks like that it may have happened around a similar time. And I was shocked when I clicked through their page on MicroAcquire to see that they wanted to sell this business for $100,000, and it made $600 a month, because that seems outrageous. That's what, 600 times 12,
15 times ARR or something like that.
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. And then you pointed out that if it's a strategic acquisition for the technology, that would make more sense. I'm curious to hear more of your thoughts on that, because like, yeah, if someone like that exists, that's what I would want to do. But I guess I'm in a weird position, because I look at a company like that and I think I could build that. I don't know that there's anything they're doing that is beyond what I would be capable of making. And then if it was about a business that I was buying, like I would prefer that I made it so that I understood it more. Are those types of sales things that actually happen? Like who's the person who's going to pay $100,000 for this?
Yeah. So there are several things that I thought of when I saw that. First of all, yeah, it doesn't make much sense if you are someone like you who is looking to buy it for MRR. That doesn't make sense. But at those kind of prices, I can think of at least 3 types of businesses that might buy it. One is a business that is looking to build the exact same thing. So they're looking to build it. They look out there to see what the competitive landscape is like. They see one for sale, and then they just say, well, just buy it, and that is how they get started. And the reason they would buy it at 100K is because, like, if you add a project manager and a few developers and the vice president's time to do the, meetings and all that stuff, you get to 100K in like a month or two, of development. And so if you can accelerate yourself by a couple months for 100K, you do that, all day. So that's one kind. The second kind is strategic acquisitions, which is not exactly where this falls, but it's more like the reason a company might overpay for one is like, so when Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion, and Instagram was only 13 people or whatever, or no, WhatsApp they bought for like $13 billion, and they were like 13 people, something like that. Anyway, the reason that Facebook paid those crazy prices was because they saw the trajectory of Instagram and WhatsApp, and they did not want to compete with them in the future, where they were able to like reach their full potential. So that's more like a strategic acquisition, where you see the trajectory, and you know that this company is going to be either worth this amount or this technology is going to be whatever, and so you just buy them. I don't think that would happen in this case, and then the last one is, so I know someone who recently, because of a company that got bought and stuff, he is now the, I think, vice president. I don't know what his title is, but he's high up in this bank. And he said stuff like, if they're looking to integrate with a technology partner, and it looks like that integration is going to be difficult or take a long time, then they just like look to see if they can buy the company because it's like way faster. And so if by buying a company, even if you way overpay, if you can super accelerate your development because now you have all this talent, which again is not happening in this case, but you might do the same for technology, then that's when it makes a ton of sense, even if you overpay for something. So yeah, if you can get technology or people or accelerate your timeline or stomp out a strategic threat, those are reasons that you might just way overpay. Yeah, and so in this case, it might be technology, but any of those reasons might be reasons you would overpay.
Those reasons make sense, and I think the reason they don't make sense for me, I think, is
right.
Why it's difficult for me to understand them, and I'm not as familiar with the motivations of a bigger company. Like, I'm not a big enough fish in anything I'm doing to make it ever make sense. Well, not ever. none of those three things would be a motivating factor for me. But I could totally see how that would make sense in a bigger company. How interesting that software seems like it's leveraged more, or like it's if you're a traditional company, there's a lot of things happening in software that like you have to do these things to keep up. But if you don't have that experience in house, you're sort of put over a barrel of like you have to either find someone to partner with or find a company to buy or something. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I could also see, if there's a backup service in a company like, Iron Mountain's a terrible example because they're a huge company, but a company that does paper backups, right? They may just buy this company so that they can also say they do digital backups. So that's like a marketing expense at that point. So and 100K is nothing for a marketing expense.
I could also imagine if it's a company that needs backups and it's big enough, like if it's Sirius XM and they don't want to hire a third party to do it because now that's a huge liability. But if they can just take the technology from a company and bring it in-house, okay, that makes sense. And then if it's Sirius XM, the cost of acquiring something for $100,000 versus trying to build it yourself is going to be roughly equivalent. Yep. How inefficient are larger companies? I feel
for sure.
Yeah. I look at that and I'm like, I could build that in a weekend. Sirius XM would look at that and be like, that's a deal. That's so much cheaper than like all the meetings it would take to get that done. Huh. Cool.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, to be fair, I'm not saying it's easy to sell a company like this at all, because you have to find the acquirer, which, there may be a handful of companies in the world looking to buy this at any, one time. So you have to somehow get in front of them, so it's I would say hard and rare to sell for way above your multiple, but it's possible for sure.
Yeah. Huh. Makes me think we should be listing like every side project we've ever done and just have an insane multiple on it and throw it up on MicroAcquire. If there's a business shopping around for like, I sure would like to own an app that puts a camera of myself in the circle in a corner, I would pay $1 million for that. It seems like the sort of thing I'd like to expose myself to. Interesting. Okay, I think I've been pushed by this experience into not looking into buying software. That was a thing that I was playing with. Of like, does this make sense as a place to be putting money? Is this an avenue that's good for me to be spending money to get back more money? And I think the answer is probably no, because as long as there exist buyers that are valuing software higher than I would be, which I'm sort of valuing it just for the nuts and bolts of like, well, no, I'm valuing it for like the market. How many customers do you have that are paying, and how good is your advertising? That's really what I'd be buying. And as long as there are people who are valuing that and also valuing the software and the difficulty of the software to make, they're going to be paying much more than I would want to pay. I think the way that I'm probably going to interact with these types of things is see that like, oh man, there's a business for sale in this space that makes this much per month. I could do that. And then I do. Yeah. And then I ignore it and don't do any marketing. And then I move on to other projects is probably what's going to happen. But I'd love to figure out how to get the marketing side done also.
Yeah. That's why it might be interesting. Just like a company who can't do technology buys a technology company for their value. Maybe you need to look at like more content or marketing companies. So if you can micro acquire a content or marketing company and then tack on your software, then maybe that's a strategic acquisition that you can make yourself. I don't know.
That's an interesting idea. What is a marketing company? What would I be buying?
I have no idea.
What do they do?
I have no idea.
I also maybe that's the problem.
There is like maybe a newsletter with a wide reach in a market that you have software for.
Oh yeah.
Instead of advertising in them, you could just buy the newsletter.
I could just buy them, and then I'm the sole advertiser. Oh, that's a very good idea. Huh. Or maybe a site that gets a lot of traffic but doesn't have very many sales. They don't have anything interesting technologically. It's just like a WordPress site, but they have a blog that people in the space go to. Yeah, I would totally buy a blog. Interesting. Or a newsletter. Yeah. Huh. That's something to chew on. Yeah.
You just have to do hours and now you just have to do hours and hours of research about what exactly you could buy and what.
Oh, goody. New form of entertainment.
Yep.
Have you seen the latest Netflix show? Christian does a whole bunch of research about this arbitrary topic. Cool. Well, I'm gonna go do a bunch of research on that, and also endlessly compare Teslas. So that's all I got.
Sounds good. That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.